Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the Behaviour Revolution. My name's Mark, and at the Behaviour Revolution lately, in the last few months, the focus has been coming down out of religious affiliation, cutting away, being set apart, focusing on our communities, our businesses, our lives, our families, and trying to hear Yahusha's voice in our day, just very simply and very plainly, very practically, in our day, in our business, that way. Instead of having this false persona, which you really can't get to know very well because it's on the other side of the world, or it's through Facebook, or it's through this, or it's through that, and it's not real. It's not a real experience, Facebook. You can say and do whatever you like. It's almost like a new religion. And the Messianics and Natrum have been caught up in that as well. They're all on their chat rooms and forums and, you know, special groups. There's a group for everything these days. You only have to type in Yahusha or Yahuwah or Natrum, this and that. It's just gone so crazy. So in my mind, it's just like a new religion, really. The Natrum Messianic movement, just another religion that we've got to come out of. But are you willing to come out of it? Are you willing to face that it's a religion? A religion that has claimed the true names of Yahuwah and Yahusha, and has taken the Hebrew paleo symbols and plastered them everywhere possible as an eyesore, as their motto, as their logo, mixed in a bit of menorah with it. It's a new religion, brothers and sisters. Why do I say it's a religion? Because it's not behaving the way Yahusha would behave. And remember, behavior is our worship. Not where we attend or whether we attend or, you know, what we do and say, how we dress. It's our behavior. It is what we do and what we say. Our behavior is our worship. What we partake of in the world, whether we behave like the world, whether we want to think like the world or not. It's all our behavior. Just like the priests in the Old Testament had to go in and offer up sacrifices and cut up bulls and lambs and get rid of the blood and put blood here and put blood there, and, you know, oil and blood and sacrifices and blood and guts and curtains and not holy, set apart, Shekinah and glory, all this stuff happening. That was sacrifices, sacrificial, teaching us about sacrifices and worship. Today, our worship is our behavior. It's not something you do one day a week and then go and do whatever the hell you like the rest of the week, or multiple times a week, just so you feel extra holy. You know, holy is a pagan word too. You have to do it all day, every day, 24/7. That is your worship unto you. If you want to be his bride, if you want to be his bride, and if you want to be his bride, you will be flogged and chastised and rebuked and disciplined to get your mind, your heart, your body behavior into a certain order that he wants. Because he wants to come in upon your immersion, come into your vessel, and just like a new house, start throwing things around a bit, moving the furniture and putting things where he wants it to shine. Over time, and you will look back and go, I'm nothing like that anymore, I'm a different person. Year after year, we're overcoming, because we're in a test. He's going to test us and put us through trials. And a lot of the trials that we are going through are not him, actually. A lot of the trials we go through are just the consequences for our stupid behavior, our cruel behavior, things we've said and done to spouses, to children, to, you know, family, to friends. A lot of the hatred we receive is not persecution. A lot of the hatred we receive is our own stupidity and the consequences for our own actions, which we need to face, otherwise we will never be free. Because you know how we are, it's always someone else's fault, isn't it? We're always crying sympathy, always crying persecution, and then we blame it because we've got Yahusha's name. No, I don't think any of us have really been persecuted very much at all for Yahusha's name. It's all been for our own stupid behavior and the way we decide to take his word into the world, whether appropriately or improperly. So, brothers and sisters, I want to talk to you today about a language, a secret language. It's called the language of love. And Christopher wrote this a few weeks ago, and it really affected me and helped me, and I want to read it to you because it was very, very effective. It's all about a secret language. What is the language of Yahuwah's love? Let's go straight in there. And I'm going to try and post the article right up here next to me so you can read along, okay? Speaking to a new believer on our staff on the 6th day last week, that's FRI day, 6th day last week, I tried to break down the language of love, Yahusha's way, to a simple understanding so that he would not be confused. So going straight to scripture, 1 John, or Yehukanon, 1 John 5 verse 3 says, "For this is the love of Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult." So what is love? This is the love of Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult. That's pretty straightforward. In the orange here, guarding his command is keeping his words in our heart and only acting or speaking on what Yahusha has said, rather than what the world tells us to do with their traditions, etc. Then we are told that his commands are not difficult. Let me read that again, because this is what love is, remember? Guarding his commands, this is love. Guarding his commands is keeping his words in our heart. Keeping his words in your heart. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, this is what I told my children, because they've moved back down to Sydney, which is about 3,000 k's away. Not going to see them very often, and they were a bit sad when they were leaving, and I said, just keep, and Christopher spoke to them as well about this, just keep his word in your heart. Just keep Yahusha in your heart. You don't have to tell anybody about it, because all the families, hate Yahusha. So you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to, go on about it. All you have to do is behave yourself and keep don't let go of Yahusha. Keep his word in your heart and only act or speak on what Yahusha has said, rather than what the world tells us to do with their traditions, etc. Then we are told that his commands are not difficult. I said to this young man, have you ever watched a young toddler who can almost just string sentences together? How they behave? If you try to get into a conversation with the so-called child, because of their low vocabulary knowledge, they will only converse with you on that acquired knowledge level. It's like talking to a toddler, talking to a child, talking to most people. Whether they're 20, 30, 40, 80, 90, however old physically they are, it's like talking to a child. If you're going to talk real to people. People can blab their mouth and be loud and crass and abusive and rude and all these. The minute you talk to any kind of truth, everybody's silent. No one knows what to say. No one's got a response. And if they do, if you ask any kind of real truth of somebody, what are you really thinking about? What are you really experiencing? What are you really, feeling? Crickets, mate. Silence. And if you push them further, you will possibly get tears or be ignored, and the child will enter their own language of gibberish that we can't understand, doing back to us what we tried to do to them. So just talking to a toddler in the natural, that's what they'll do. If you try and get a toddler to communicate more and more and more, and if you push them a bit, they'll get upset because they can't express what they're really feeling. That's part of what the terrible twos are all about. The child wants something, needs something, can't communicate properly what it wants, hasn't had the experience. I told the young man to be able to speak or be fluent in the language of Yahuwah's love is to practice doing and saying Yahuwah's words in every situation of his life. Remembering that Shaitan hates the words of Yahusha and will battle when or wherever they are quoted. And it says quoted, but you don't have to quote Yahusha's word. It can just be truth. Victoria was saying this yesterday. It doesn't, if somebody's saying that something is white and you know it's black, it's not about bringing 3 different scriptures to the table. It's just about saying, no, that's actually black. It's not white, it's black, or vice versa. Because that's what happens out in the world. That's what Shaitan does. He wants to declare everything right, everything that's wrong right, and everything that's right wrong. Everything's upside down. So if somebody's just talking and you're having a conversation with somebody, you don't have to quote scriptures and get all heavy and spiritual and theological with them. It's just simply speaking the truth. Oh no, that's not black, it's white. And the truth will speak for itself on a very plain level, and you might go deeper if you might go deeper, all right? Being fluently experienced. Being fluently experienced in speaking the knowledge of Yahusha's words will give you the cunningness to wield your sword. What's your sword? Sword of truth. What's at the tip of the sword? Yahusha's name, which we have inside us. We have His Spirit inside us to speak His word. So being fluently experienced in speaking the knowledge of Yahusha's words will give you the cunningness to wield your sword in battle against the enemy of life. I said to our staff member, if we are too lazy or fearsome to act or speak truth in public, we will just be left with childish gibberish and never grow up spiritually. This is because we did not experience or practice the love of Yahuwah and wanted to remain in the milk of the word. Remember the scripture that says, when I was a baby, when I was a child, I talked as a child, I spoke as a child, I behaved as a child, acted as a child. Now I'm a man, I've done away with childish things. I want the meat of the word. None of this milk is for baby. I want the meat of the word, the real experience. And I tell you what, if you put your hand up to want to follow Yahusha, you better be ready. Because everything is going to come at you to knock you off the path that you are on. Whether it be a financial path, whether it be business, housing, life, Yahusha, pathway, everything in your life, relationship path, everything, the forces and hordes and armies of evil will be coming at you constantly, attacking you through everybody around. And it may feel at times that every single person on this earth hates your guts. Well, they might. So what? Where are your roots planted? Where is your anchor? Is it with other people? Is it with other congregations, denominations, churches, family, relatives, a wife or husband maybe? Where is your identity? Where is your foundation and your roots? Because if it's not in Yahusha, your bridegroom, remember, everything's going to be tested by fire. And everything that doesn't pass the test will crumble. Everything is going to be tested, including you and how you're going to behave. So, brothers and sisters, we don't want the milk of the word, we want the real truth. If we are too lazy or fearsome to act or speak truth, we all know this truth in our heads, don't we? Those of us who have been immersed for over a decade, lots of us have been immersed for a while now and been walking this walk. We've come through many movements, learnt so much knowledge rattling around in our heads. But our experience, my experience, is that everything is very, very quiet now. Once you sever your ties to religious people, it gets very, very quiet inside in your home. It's just very quiet. Why? Because He's separating us unto Himself so He can speak to you and have a real relationship with you, between you and Him, only you and Him. And if you're too lazy or fearsome to act or speak truth in public, you'll be left with childish gibberish, like a baby, and never grow up spiritually. Because all this knowledge that you're learning from the Word, this is our only foundation, the Word, and the only version of Scripture I would be reading as well. It's inspired by Yahusha Himself for this generation and the next generation. If you're not doing that, if you're not behaving it, if you're not willing to speak the truth, not preaching at people and quoting scriptures at people all the time, just speaking truth. I've never wanted to be that sort of person. I wanted to have my knowledge and my experience to myself. And if somebody, ticks me off, or frustrates me or angers me, I just go into my shell and I go very quiet. I did that to my ex-wife for many, many years. And despite what she is and what she did, my behaviour was very passive-aggressive. And that's called abuse, really, when you're not communicating and you're not loving like that, because you just want to go into yourself and you're just hating somebody instead of just speaking the truth and staying free. Oh, I don't agree with that. Oh, I don't like that. And then you have a discussion about it. Oh, no, you just listen to unclean spirits and you just go into your shell and you just, and you end up years later hating each other. Well, Yahusha's bringing me out of this anyway, and showing me that if you actually stay on a point, Win the point. If he brings up a point in a conversation, stay on the point. And Scripture says, win the point. Stay on the point. And there'll be whirlwinds of distractions and other problems and other things going on in the conversation all the way around the world of everything that's going on. But you stay on your point. Speak the truth. Get the truth to a point. Win the point for Yahusha. That's what we're called to do. It's not like we thought, grand preaching and pulling out our scriptures and bashing people over the head with them and Scripture says da 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 da. No, we don't have to do that. We just have to be truthful from our heart in communication. So you build a reputation with friends, colleagues, wives, husbands as being someone who tells the truth. A truthful person instead of a religious fake. Yeah? Let's go back to the article. Every person who wants to learn a language that they don't know has to study and practice. They have to study and practice the said language to become fluently comprehended by others who speak that language. Likewise, with Yahuwah's Torah, the Ruach, upon entering our being, becomes our teacher, prompting and guiding us in every situation. If we want our own way and will not listen to instruction, we will have to repeat the lesson until we get it right. If we are not willing to do this, we will eventually be dropped from the class. Yeah? Seen many people who have taken themselves out of the class. Or were they dropped? So likewise with Yahuwah's Torah, just like learning a language in the natural, when the Ruach comes into our vessel, he is our teacher. He will teach us, prompting us and guiding us in every situation. But if we want our own way and will not listen to instruction, we will have to repeat the lesson until we get it right. Life's lessons going round and round and round until we get it right. If we're not willing to do this, we will eventually be dropped from the class. In these last days, Yahusha wants an obedient bride. Remember, half the maidens are wise and half are foolish. Remember from Yahusha's parable? Half the virgins, half the maidens were wise and half were foolish. It is obvious to see that foolish behavior gets us nowhere. The language of Yahuwah's love must be taught personally. You can't teach this in a congregation, in an assembly, in your book. Why am I sharing it with you? Because maybe somebody out there might be by themselves, might be alone, severed from relationships, wives, husbands, children, congregations, sitting by themselves, wondering why this has happened to them. And I'm telling you, this is the real experience. Not all of it. Maybe some of it was because of your own stupidity and horrible behavior and you're in a consequence. But the idea of being set apart and Yahusha drawing us unto himself is the real experience. So I'm here to tell you, if you want to hear it, if you don't, it's okay. I'm just here to share with you that you're not alone and this is the true walk. Because Yahusha wants an obedient bride. The language of Yahuwah's love must be taught personally by the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. If a person does not have this component of the Ruach, it is impossible to learn the right and wrong of the Torah because it can only be discerned spiritually. You can't read this book without the Ruach because the Ruach wrote it. And the Ruach will not speak to you unless it's the word, spirit and the word together, because Yahusha wrote this through lots of different people. Several men who were filled with the Ruach wrote this. And if you don't have the Ruach inside you, speaking to you, you're just going to be reading ink on a page, which, like any philosophy in life, may help you. It may help you to become a better person if you take it seriously, because the word is powerful, but you won't get the fullness. You won't get the true secrets, unlocking the secrets of what's in here if you don't have the Ruach inside you. So that's the first step. If you have got the Ruach inside you and you've been going through this experience for many, many years, you might feel like you're going around the same mountain of knowledge, of congregating, of relating to people, doing the same thing in week in and week out, liturgy, music, worship, what they call worship, religious behavior. If you want that, if you want to play church, Nazarene church, which is what I call it now, the Nazarene religion, if you want to do that, great, go for it. But I believe Yahusha's bride is outside of religion. I believe that. I know it in my heart, because as I've come out of it, I've experienced him more and more and more. Anyway, back to the text. If a person does not have this component of the Ruach, it is impossible to learn the right and wrong of the two, because it can only be discerned spiritually. In between the ink on the page, Yahusha speaks to you. That's why when you're reading this, it's often more important to be listening to your thoughts than it is to what's in. It's often more important, because he will teach, particularly if you've read it before, he will speak things to you while you're reading it, because he knows your mind is on him. And once you start reading this and listening to his voice, the spirits, unclean spirits, have all buggered off. They can't stand him, so they're afraid of him. They've gone. So you've got your undivided attention. He'll start speaking to you about things, and you might actually get a new interpretation of something that's in here, maybe. So, brothers and sisters, the spiritual component is not of this world. The spiritual component is not of this world. It is pretty obvious to see the language of Yahuwah's love is only learnt by obedience to Torah, by the Ruach. Only by accepting the name of Yahuwah as the key of knowledge and receiving the spirit of Yahusha as the door to that knowledge can we have access to the language of the love of Yahuwah. You need Yahuwah's name, which is the key of knowledge. The key opens the door. Who is the door? Yahusha is the doorway to deliverance. If you are not a delivered, redeemed, on the pathway of a deliverance, redeemed person with the Ruach inside you, this will not make any sense to you, and you'll just be learning religious jargon. If you want to live the language of religion, rather than going through the process Yahusha has laid out for us, tell me this one thing. Are you allowed access to the language of the love of Yahuwah? Or will you ever even know it? Good question, eh? That's what we all need to ask ourselves. Am I hungry for Yahusha in my day, all day wanting him? Or am I looking to men and women and the world? Have I truly come out from among her, come out from among them? Or am I still playing religion, associating with religious people, lifting myself up based on the knowledge that I know, because I've got Yahusha's name and Yahuwah's name written on my forehead, Yahusha's name, and I know the true truth? Are you lifting yourself up, communicating with people on Facebook and online, and giving yourself a ministry and a position, and or have you come out from all that? Yahusha wants us to come out from all that and just bask in the understanding, bask in his love, brothers and sisters. That's where he's leading his bride closer and closer to him, where she will speak when he wants her to speak, shut up when he wants her to shut up, write things when he wants her to write things, be there when he wants you to be there, listening, having a real experience, like the emissaries did in the early New Testament, like the emissaries were. They were just transported. Philip just disappeared and taken somewhere else. They were listening. They didn't have phones or internet or social media back then. They just had to hear Yahusha's voice and rock up, and they happened to get there at the same time. Well, this person got given a message, and then that person got finished the message, and then it all worked out because they were listening to the same person. He was their connection. We can have that today if you're tuning in. So brothers and sisters, don't ever let those wicked, dirty, downright stinking liars, those unclean spirits, tell you that you've failed, that you're alone, that nobody loves you, that this pathway is rubbish, that you should have never come on it, That is the hideous lies of the enemy trying to break you. Yes, you, because you've been called to overcome the world, and Hashitan hates it. Hates you with a passion. So not only do you have his hatred against you, you've got the consequences of everything you've done and said and been when you look behind you and all the people that hate you because of it. But so what? So what? Keep going forward, keep going on with Yahusha, and he will fight all your battles for you. He will distress those who distress you. He will pay back. Vengeance is mine, he says, not yours. You don't have to pay anybody back. And you will watch and clear the field ahead of you. You'll watch everything you touch turn to gold. All your opportunities, all the doorways, everything that you do and say will work if you listen to him. So brothers and sisters, that's what I want to leave you with today. There is a language that you can have, but it has to be learnt and it has to be practiced. And it's Yahusha's love inside you. How are you going to express it? It's nothing like their teaching in the Nazarene movement. They're just all there playing church in their assemblies and their little zeets and paleo and all this rubbish they're doing. It's all, you know, it might be based, yes, the original believers were called Nazarene, and yes, people in scripture at certain times were zeets, and yes, they had the paleo name. That was the original text that Yahusha had on the 10 Commandments and all that. Yes, it's all true. It's all true, but the behavior is absolutely wickedness. The way they will treat you, the way they will talk to you, and he wants us to come out of that because it's a hangover of religion. Come out from among them. Don't come out a little bit and then stop. Yes, you might have come out from Christianity into the Messianic movement. Keep coming, keep coming. You might have come out from the Messianics to the rabbis and all that ridiculous madness. So, well, yeah, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Now you're a Nazarene. You've been immersed in the true name of Yahusha. Keep going, keep coming out, brothers and sisters. Get rid of all your congregations. You've got to leave. It's going to crumble. Keep coming out, he's saying. Follow me. The grass up here, in the meadows up here for the sheep is fantastic. Or are you still walking around in circles in the sheep dung of retired, old, worn out teachings? Keep coming out into the fresh stuff. Yahusha has fresh stuff for you if you tap in. Tap into his essence, into his ruach. That's who he is. He is power and amazing love that can be flooded in your vessel. Or have you just turned off to him, downtrodden and hurt and upset because certain people have said this about you and that about you, and certain people have left, and you know, you're crying persecution, you want sympathy. That's not love. This is a real experience, brothers and sisters. Or do you just want to sit in your congregations and watch your little religious Nazarene videos and suck off the milk of the word while some personality entertains you? That's milk. Get it yourself from the source. Come boldly to the throne room yourself. You to Yahusha's throne room. So, it's time to grow up, brothers and sisters. This is a real experience. It's a battle and it's a war. And if you're not strong enough and you don't have your roots planted in his word firmly, so you're only looking to Yahusha, then the seed, we saw what happened to all the different types of seed that was sown. Only the seed that is in the word brings forth a good fruit in your behavior. And that's what we want to see, brothers and sisters. So I love you. You're not alone. Those of us who are real and going through this will testify to you that this is the true walk. This is the language of Yahusha's love. And where else is anybody going to know it? How else is anybody going to feel it in this world? This world is dark. This world is dead. The only light in this world is this word. And this word has been planted in your heart. So how are you going to behave it? Love you, brothers and sisters. See you later.